Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 5 Minute Library. I'm Piyushi Sharma, and I'm here with Neil De Silva. And as some of you may know, Neil has been with us before, but not on the podcast, but for the Wench Film Festival, where we had him for one of our panels about horror. So, for those of you who don't know Neil, Neil is an author of 12 books with Rupa, Penguin Random House has shared, HarperCollins. He is also a screenwriter for web series. He is a TEDx speaker, founder of LitVenture, and a fitness enthusiast. So, Neil does everything you could possibly think of. Hi, Neil, and welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Piyushi. And I'm very glad to see you again. That the talk at the Bench Film Fest was also quite exciting. We spoke such a lot of stuff about horror, and I'm looking forward to continue it. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for the kind words.
So today we are going to discuss Neil's books, Maya's New Husband 1 and 2. So before we start asking Neil his questions about the book, I just want to put this out there. These were genuinely the most terrifying things I have read in my life. This was more terrifying than some of the true crime things I've actually read. So, keeping that in mind, Neil, what made you decide to write?
It was not a conscious plan. I'll be very upfront here. So, when I started with the thought that I want to write a book, most people, what they do is they first decide, okay, I want to become a writer, I want to write a book, and then they go in search for a story that they want to write. But for me, it happened the other way around. A story hit me with the force of a cannonball, you can say, and that story was what made me think that, okay, I need to write this down, and whatever happens, we'll see about it. So that story was finally what became Maya's New Husband. How it germinated in my mind was I was on a trip with my family, and I was just looking at the people who had come on the trip. There were lots of people. This is Goa. Okay, I'm talking about Goa. So there were a lot of honeymooners and stuff, newlywed couples. And my mind just started thinking, like, how well do these people know about each other? So, what if somebody is a serial killer or somebody something? Will they tell their spouse? So, that was where the idea of Maya's New Husband came into my mind. And then I just had to write down that story. So, that's how it started. It all started. And when I started writing, let me tell you, I had no background of the publishing industry at all. I was always a very good reader. I read everything and anything, but I had never known, like I didn't know how you get published, how you get agented, what that entire process. So I just wrote the story and I wrote it as dark as I wanted to. All the crime that you have read the gory bits, so I don't need to tell you about that. So I just went all out and I wrote it, and I did not have anything in mind about that if anybody will at all read this book or if it will ever see the light of day. Nothing. I never knew we'll have this talk about the book. So, but yeah, the book was written and it was put out. That's it.
Wow, that sounds like a very passion project book. And I know that this is where a lot of your books came after the original first copy of Maya's New Husband. And while reading it, also, I kept wondering why you chose this specific plot and how did you decide to go into the themes of cannibalism and the aghori tribes. And this is something I've asked you previously too, because that's a pretty controversial topic. For our listeners, aghoris are a certain tribe that used to worship certain Hindu gods, and they ventured down a path where they started to practice cannibalism and a couple of other different habits. And if you want a more pop culture reference, then this is in Bhool Bhulaiya too also. So that's the kind of tribe that Neil brings into the book, and it's shown in its true horrors, of people that have gone down the wrong path in the name of religion and devotion, service. So, how and why did you choose these themes?
Now, that's quite a loaded question. So, let me take it slowly and give a kind of description as what I came across when I was learning about Akhoris. So, it is a misconception. That's not actually correct, to see about it, because aghoris are also sadhus. They are mystics, they are ascetics. They are, in fact, very staunch devotees of the Mahakal, that is Lord Shiva. And they have their own belief system about it. So what the Aghoris do is they have renounced the world. So they do not keep themselves attached with any worldly ties. They don't have families. They don't have houses. They don't have material possessions. So they don't live in this world in a way, so to speak. Where do they live? They live on cremation grounds. Banks of the Ganga, you will find them. They live on the cremation grounds. They even wear the clothes which are nothing but the shrouds of the deceased. So those kapda that they get, that is what they wear. Even their bowls are human skulls. They remove it and then that's what they use. So aghoris are somebody who are a cult within themselves. And to become an aghori, why do people then become an aghori? Because it is said that once you are an aghori, you become a kind of a trikaldarshi, like Lord Shiva is. So, what is a trikaldarshi? Is somebody who can see the past, present, as well as future. So, you have that kind of infinite knowledge once you reach that highest stage of aghora, which uh, which this cult tries to pursue. To become an Aghori, there is also an initiation rite. One cannot just become an Aghori like that. So, to become an Aghori, you have to give up your family, you have to live on the cremation grounds, you have to actually have all those initiation rites which the senior Aghoris might tell you about, And once you do that, there is also one part of these rites is that you have to consume human flesh of a person who is deceased, of a person who has died. This they do because Aghoris believe that the human flesh, like anything else that God has created, is divine, is holy, and it should not be wasted. So, therefore, it's a kind of piety which is associated even in this rite. So, therefore, it is not strictly cannibalism. Now, when we talk about cannibalism, cannibalism is a deviant kind of behavior because it is for pleasure, it is for a kind of sadism, extreme sadism. But when the Aghoris practice this, it is not that, it's not for enjoyment, it is for a kind of self fulfillment. So, of course, it is stark, it is dark, and it becomes a good theme for my crime novel. Because in my story, the Aghori is Bhaskar Sadachari. But Bhaskar Sadachari, since you have read the book, is a person who is not really an Aghori. He is somebody who falsely believes he is one. And therefore, whatever he is doing is like a wannabe. He's a wannabe Aghori. He's not an Aghori at all. So he's somebody who is chasing, and that's why his mind is all demented, deviated, and he gets perverted pleasure in all these acts.
That makes sense. Have you ever met anyone from the tribe?
I have had a kind of indirect contacts with them because Agoris directly won't meet you. It's very difficult to actually get hold of somebody, sit with them, and talk to them. But I have met people who have met Agoris. So from them, I have heard a lot of accounts as to what they went to, which all culminated in my book eventually. So there are people who stay with them. It takes a lot of courage to do that, because even to see the kind of rituals that they practice, the Aghoris practice, it's pretty scary. Like they will go in the deep heart of the jungle where nobody goes, like inaccessible territories I'm talking about. They will sit there whole night, and that is where they will consume whatever the dead flesh, right? And they will consume that along with other animals coming and surrounding them, eating with them in the same plate. So that's what they do in the dead of the night sometimes. Or they may just sleep with a dead body. Just sleep. I'm not talking about anything else. Just sleep or lie down with a dead body. They even go and sleep on the funeral pyres before they are lit. So all these kinds of things which they do are pretty spooky. So it takes a lot of guts to actually sit down with an Aghori and talk. But yes, I have got a lot of accounts, and they made their way into the book.
Wow, definitely for anyone who reads these books, they can see how much research, in-depth research has gone into it. Because while this book absolutely chilled me to the bone, it also educated me on a lot of different rituals and a lot of different things that I didn't know even happened, in the 21st century. It's still in India. I didn't know that. And for anyone who doesn't know beyond mainstream religion, This is something very eye opening and something that's just not common knowledge. And while reading too, I remember I was so surprised because I read each book in a single night. And I remember on Friday night and Saturday night, I would sit around 9 p.m., start reading, and I would stay up the whole night and finish the book because it was so catchy. I needed to know what happened next. And the certain plot twists that come in the book, which I'm not going to say, obviously, but those were incredible. I could not have seen those coming. And even in the second book, after you have a basic idea of what the storyline is, something you could predict, right? Again, you think, oh, this is what's gonna happen, right? Because this is based on the first book, and then it completely throws you off. That brings me to my last question. So I know that there's supposed to be a third book for the series, a third and the final book. So can you give us a hint about what themes we could expect and when we could expect the book to come out?
So I expect it to be like next year, around the end of next year, the third and the final installment of the Maya's New Husband trilogy will be out. So in the third book, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit more in the supernatural territory. If you see the first book, it is more of a crime thriller. There was not much supernatural going on. Whereas when you see the second book, towards the end of it, we have a lot of supernatural things coming in. Like
Yeah.
there is the the Vashikaran, that is the entire Vashikaran ritual that I've explained at the end of it. Now Vashikaran is something that fascinates me so much, like, because how it is that you can control somebody else to do your bidding. And this really happens. I was shocked to know that Vashikaran still happens. People believe in it. Whether it works or not, I don't know. I'm not an expert to tell that. But Vashikaran does happen. And I included Vashikaran in Maya's investment too. And let me just digress and tell you here that when I was writing the Vashikaran scene, I was chilled to the core. I was really scared myself because it's so scary to imagine that whole thing. They bring entities into somebody to do your bidding. So anyway, in the third book, this supernatural aspect is what I'm going to build up a lot on. Some dead people are going to come back, and they are not going to come back in a good way, but it will be a fun way, that is for sure. And finally, yes, my heroine, of course, is Maya. So Maya has to come out the winner. She will be
Yeah.
the winner, and her the tragedies that are in her life, the because people, my readers ask me, और माया को कितना परेशान करेगा तू, like,
Yeah.
because since two books I'm just troubling her end on end. I'm not giving her the respite that she needs. She will get that in the third book. She will emerge victorious.
I really hope Maya and the policeman work out because I'm shipping for them.
Let's see. That I will not know now. I will know it when I start writing and when they tell me what they want to do. It's like
Perfect.
that.
Well, thank you, Neil, for being here. This concludes our first episode. And that's right, I said first episode because we're going to have a couple more with Neil discussing the horror genre and a lot more. So stay tuned for our next episode with him. And until then, we will see you in 5.
Thank you so much, Piyushi, for doing this. Enjoy talking.
Thank you.